G'day battlers. We have a panel talking about how to pick a line of 3 from your team of 6. So this is streamed on Twitch before it was on YouTube. So there'll be all the like timestamps in the progress bar if you want to skip to like when we start talking about stuff. If you want to skip to a certain section, whatever, that'll all be in there. Okay, cool. So howdy to everyone who has popped in already. Again, we are doing that stream for kind of just a panel discussion, talking about how to pick a line of 3 in your Silph tournaments when you've got those teams of 6. You're like, there's lots of videos that are kind of out there about how to team build, how to build that team of 6. The next step, as Majin, who is in the chat, actually mentioned on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, there's not a lot of content talking about how you actually see your team of 6, see your opponent's team of 6, and then go, okay, what do I do now? What do I pick as my team of 3? So that is what we're going to try and tackle today. So we have a wonderful panel here. If you want to introduce yourselves in alphabetical order, I'm going to leave you to figure that out yourself.
Oh man, I don't know the alphabet.
Lead us off, Adib.
I think Adib might be first, maybe.
All right, hey everyone, my name's Adib. I'm a battler from Atlanta. Don't really have any social medias, but I've been working on this project called Project Grookey, which is like a simulator for Pokemon Go. So yeah, you can check me out on that.
Cool.
All right, cool.
I'm Bukk. Also Jackson. I'm from Connecticut. I go to school in Maine. I do a lot of Silph, a little bit of GBL, but yeah, I'm on Twitter at BoSoxGuy7.
Awesome. I think there might be the other B name.
That would be me. I am Burnobus or Brendan. You can call me either one. I have a Twitter, but I'm not all that active on it, but am meaning to get active on it. It's just Burnobus7337. I am a Chicago-based battler. I do both Silph and GBL. I enjoy Silph a bit more because of the non-blind aspect. That's more my style, but I enjoy them both and take both pretty seriously and get pretty tilted at GBL, especially with Holiday. Man, that is bad.
Yeah.
For me, I'm awful at it.
I realize we actually might have a problem here now, alphabetical wise, because we have Creasel, but you also have Hot Pocket, who's named themselves Pocket. So Pocket comes second. Hot Pocket comes first.
I don't really care. Greaser, you can go first if you want.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm Kyle, or aka Creaser. I'm out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and I do a bunch of Silph tournaments. I'm kind of like a Silph tournament maniac. I did over 23 tournaments this last month. I have like over like 123, like 43 matches this last month. So I really enjoy Silph. Like everyone said, it's kind of more of like strategy-based meta type of thing than like GBL. But unfortunately, I don't have any social medias. Just a dad in Scottsdale, just playing online at night and really just kind of enjoying it. So
yeah,
I guess
I have to say stuff now.
Sure do, buddy.
All right, so yeah, I am from Maryland. I like battling, tapping my screen and sending creatures to fight other creatures. I stream on Twitch every now and then. I have a Twitter at HotPocket777. My Twitch is just 1 less 7 because for no reason. And then I have a few achievements, but everyone here is also ace, so it's not a big deal. Being ace.
Hot Pocket's being nice. He was like #1 in the world for a long time.
And currently number 5 in the world on Silph.
Yeah, you got bragging rights in here.
He's being modest.
Pocket. Yeah, you got bragging
I'm
rights
number 5. I haven't checked.
At least that's what I saw this morning. I must have been some more sneaky ranked tournaments in January.
I must have recalc set me behind Vani. That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
hey, we've got J-Farm in the chat.
The recalc was bad to me too, Pocket.
Oh, trying to ram here as well. Okay, whole lot of people.
I need to follow you on Twitch. Sorry, Steve.
Oh yeah, I might have realized.
Yeah, same. I noticed that too. I got you on YouTube.
7.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you on YouTube and not Twitch. All right, there we go.
I think I was one of the earlier ones. Emzal did one of our tourneys actually, like I'm a TO of one of a local server over here, and Emzal sent you his run from there. This is when I think you had a couple hundred subscribers.
Back in Rose Cup.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, and by the way, I'm gonna miss it a bit because we are going to be doing this panel discussion. But like, thanks to all the people that are following Blockaroo, brajSox, Tenzo, Trainer Ram, the D, Burner Bus, Hot Pocket, everyone. But I guess let's start getting into it, right? So today we are going to be mainly talking about how to pick your team of 3 from a team of 6. But to be able to do that, you obviously need a team of 6. So really quickly, just kind of want to talk about team building a little bit on that team of 6 side. So I guess we'll go like reverse alphabetical now. We'll go like the other way. We start with Hot Pocket. All right. How do you kind of go about building your team of 6? And is there anything that you kind of like, anything about how you build a team of 6 that is a little helps you out in picking a line of 3? Like, do you make a balanced team of 6 so that it's just about, I know that my team can cover my opponents? Or is it more of a building for strategies, and then your line of 3s might be a little bit different? So
all right, so in the beginning of each month, I usually do a blind I usually do blind practices for like the first few days. I get comfortable with the mons. Sometimes I'll have fun, like in Sunrise, I got addicted to using Pelipper over and over again, and then I was like, you know what, that's on the team, 5 more to go. And then eventually I started toying around with stuff. And then, I eventually came across my team. I had Shadow Articuno, I had Pelipper. It was the dream. It was a fun team. And for me, I value fun over function, because as long as the mons are good and I'm having fun, I don't really care. Because if I have that, for me, I'll, get used to lines when I start practicing those. I'll realize the roles of my mon. So I'll know that, okay, this Vigoroth was a safe swap. Vigoroth is always going to be in that safe swap position as Sunrise Cup, stuff like that. And you always have something that supports it, something that will pair with it. And then, everything starts meshing together. So, and that's how I usually do it. Because it's just, you need to have one role, safe swap, closer, this, that. And then if you know what those are, you can build lines of 3 very efficiently and well. And you know how those mons work together.
For sure. Do you find out, like, in building for those sorts of roles, do you find yourself kind of gravitating to the same sorts of lines of 3? Like,
sometimes I'll, like, for example, Marsh Cup, my team is 6. I used basically every single combination that was possible, because if I could find a way to work out a bad situation with it, I'd say, why not throw it in there? And I would do that. And, if I practicing the same lines is helpful, but eventually it gets boring. So that's why I change stuff up, because I'm bored.
Yeah, I know that there's people like Ramberto who used to just run the same line of 3 constantly run it into the ground until he knows exactly what to do. But Creasor, you're next in the reverse alphabetical sort of strip. How do you kind of approach building that team of 6? And is there anything like important for building the lines of 3 from that?
Yeah, I mean, fun is obviously important, but I think winning is fun as well. So, and that unfortunately kind of means you're going to have kind of top meta Pokemon. I think a great tool everyone uses is PvPoke, right? You kind of go on PvPoke and kind of see, okay, what's the top meta Pokemon? And then me personally, I am revealing some trade secrets, I guess. But I make sure I have at least one Pokemon that can counter each of the top meta Pokemon on the team, right? And then, for example, this last cup, I like to usually pick one Spicemon that is going to do well, but maybe not a lot of people see it. Not a lot of people have it on their team. And I feel like that kind of gives you an advantage in a way, because people really don't know the matchups. Like this last cup, I had Shadow Gligar. And I had people throwing Earthquakes at Shadow Gligar, because they certainly know the Pokemon that well. And as for the team of 3 within that 6, I kind of mix it up depending on the meta and depending on the cup. You can definitely run the same 3 over and over again and kind of just learn the matchups in and out, kind of figure out what your safe swap is and build a strategy around it. You can kind of, this last cup, Nightfall Cup, I did the classic like ABB lineup where you have two Pokemon in the back that are weak to, say, fighting. So I have like a safe swap Lapras to draw out the Medicham, and then have either like Stunfisk or Scrafty in the back to kind of sweep. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I do it. And it's worked pretty well so far. So.
Yep. I mean, you're like rank 100 in the world, right? On Silph, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Something's going on with Silph. I was ranked higher, and then I got some type of weighted thing messed up. So, but
yeah, that happens.
Lots of stuff going around in the Silph back rooms at the moment with those that huge trainer card overhaul. Which, by the way, massive shout out to Silph because they look sweet as right.
It looks amazing.
Oh man, awesome! But I guess Burnabus next in line. Burnabus, Brendan. Burnabus.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of the same stuff that both Pocket and Creaser mentioned, but I normally start with a lot of practice and testing, just a lot of things of what I personally like and what's working for my team of 6. And the things that are getting the best results that feel the best to me start as the base of my team of 6. And then I kind of fill it in from there, but like covering weaknesses, thinking of what I expect to see, not both meta and off meta picks, and making sure that I cover as many things as possible, having no glaring weaknesses. I also do like to run kind of like overload strats, like Creaser was saying, like the ABB kind of have, 2 things in the back that can cover something, and you switch to one to draw out the counter so then the other one can go off later in the game. In general, I tend, or at least till recently, I gravitated towards just spammy bulky mountains. That was kind of my thing. But recently, I started to get more into like offensive powerhouses. Last month, or in Sunrise? Was it Sunrise? Yeah. I started using what was the one before Nightfall? Marsh. Thank you.
Marsh.
Thanks. I used Shadow Shiftry and I loved it. Like, it just so much damage, so much shield pressure. And it really helped open the door to growing another kind of play style for me. So I did the same thing in Nightfall with Shadow Gallade, and it just thing was
Shreks.
Really, 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 really good. But it's still about balance, I think, in my opinion. And when picking 6, you have to make sure you cover all your bases and make sure you're not overly weak to anything that you expect to see. One final thing I'll say about my kind of team building process is I want to build a team where everything gets utilized. Like, I don't want to have any Pokemon just kind of sit on the bench the entire month, because it feels like a waste of space. Even if it is just bench pressure, like I want to make sure that I have the option to bring everything and there's just no filler, because it gives you the best opportunity to mix and match teams of 3 and how to combine them. So you're not limited in, just 4 or 5 of the mons, so that's kind of my general process.
Yeah, sure. I know as far as like Philemons are concerned, back in Twilight Cup, which was yonks and yonks ago, none of us had any idea what we were doing. February, almost 2 years ago now, right? Yeah. I built a team and I had 5 mons ready to go, and I was like, look, this 5 mons, these are as balances I need. These are all the dudes I need. I guess I'll just put Spiritomb as my 6th because I don't need that. That's irrelevant. Right. Maybe people can just look at that and try and counter it. But yeah, that was a bad idea. You should definitely do as you said and bring those Pokemon that are actually going to be used. So you have 6 usable Pokemon. Maybe if something's going to get hard counted, you have other options.
Right. And that doesn't mean don't use Spice or Spice picks. Just make sure that that Spice pick serves a specific role on your team,
Bench pressure.
Yeah.
It's not Spice for the point of being spiced. It's not some rank 150 Mudkip that's going to do absolutely nothing.
Right, exactly.
As much as I've been tempted before. But Bosox guy, are we going to kind of... We're starting to develop a theme here about how to build a good team of 6, but...
Yeah, absolutely. I think following up on what Pocket said, the way that I definitely start each month is just running through the list of the top mons on PvPoke. Anything that I have made, I keep a lot of Stardust on hand just in case I want to build some random mon. And then I just do blind battles, and I do that for probably 3-4 days, seeing what sticks, what I'm comfortable with. And I make sure to do it with a lot of different other battlers, so I'm not just seeing like the same person's play style over and over again. And then when I'm narrowing it down to just my 6 for the team, I always want to make sure that I'm finding coverage for each of the top meta mons. So one of my biggest problems in March was Sableye. And that's because I didn't do a great job of having a mon that's, that would hard counter Sableye. And so whenever I saw Sableye, it wasn't the be all end all of my team. I still won a lot of matches versus Sableye teams just by playing around it. But it was definitely a problem for me and a learning experience to move forward. And then picking a team of 3, picking the team of 6 and then narrowing down to the team of 3 for the battles, I like to look at what my safest mons are. And generally, I know a lot of people use that as a safe swap, but I use it more often as a lead, which I think gives me the best chance to win Switch, which is kind of my play style, how I win games.
Yeah, I think that'll take us a little bit into our next point of discussion. But before we leave deep in the dust, I'm happy to hear kind of how you go about putting those teams of 6 together and whether balance is the way to go.
Yeah, so I think it differs a little bit from like the early half of the month towards like the later or the mid half of the month, just because at the later and mid half of the month you have like knowledge of like what the meta is, whereas like earlier in the month a lot of things are still being discovered. So that definitely like shapes how I build teams, because like if it's earlier in the month, yeah, I'll just like think of like what are like really good safe swaps. Like I'll abuse Gallade and Frostlass and Nightfall just because like no one's really prepared for it yet. But then like later in the month, I like to think about like what are people using as their like pivots, like what is their kind of like carry Pokemon. So this will be stuff like Gallade and Nightfall, or Sableye and like Marsh Cup, where they just have like tons of great matchups and they can just be used as safe swaps or leads. Like there's a lot of like variety you can do with that mon just because like it's so powerful. And so that's kind of where the spice picks come for me, is finding like a flexible mon, like not something that just like hard counters it, or like it counters it, like it's reliable enough that like if they switch in and you switch in, you'll still win, but still being like flexible enough to do other things. So that's where like, for example, for me, for Sableye, Dugong was kind of like my hard counter to it. And then for Nightfall, like Gligar was my hard counter to it, because I noticed that like Noctowl, like if you just like let Gallade get the close combat, it can be really iffy. So that's kind of one thing I like to have, is just like some answers to common safe swaps. And the other thing that I really like having is just like kind of a unique team. It's like beneficial, not just because like, oh, you're playing Spice and it's really cool, but it's also just like an information advantage, because you can go into future battles and know like how people are reacting to your team, whereas your opponents, they don't really like, this might be the first type or like time they've ever played against a specific team, so that's their first reaction. And so generally a lot of people will have similar first reactions. They'll use like the same types of mons against your team, and so you have that knowledge advantage, whereas like your opponent won't have like that previous knowledge against you.
Yeah, and that's especially true in like, these days. So there's just so many resources out there. There's so many infographics and stupid YouTubers who are putting out a bunch of stuff. But a lot of teams are built very much in the same molds. So you're going to be seeing a lot of like, if they'll have, one grass, one fighter, one flyer, 2 of this. And they are going to be playing that like grass in the same sorts of roles. So you can really kind of burrow into that, as you said, knowing that this is a general strategy that people kind of try and use against my team. They always seem to bring their grass in the lead. So then you can really build against that. But I was seeing in the chat, Gengineer was asking about if anyone plays mind games with team building. And it sounds like the consensus is generally no. I'm the lowest ranked person here. I'm like ranked 950 or something. I'm ages away. But I did one time in the Go Stadium Battle for the World in like part 2 or something. I put a dugong on my team. I did not have a legacy dugong at the time. I did end up going 5-2. So it went well. But there was one opponent that I was like, this would be the perfect time to use that dugong. And afterwards, they were like, why didn't you use the dugong? And I was like, no reason.
Well, I think you're always playing mind games, right?
Yeah.
You're always trying to figure out what their lead is, and then they'll bring their 3 in on the first game, and you're like, okay, are they going to lead the same Pokemon? They're going to have the same team, and you got to kind of have to just have mind games on, okay, what are they going to lead? That type of thing. So I think it always comes with just the nature of the game, right? You're going to have to play mind games with your opponent, so...
Right.
Someone's going to have to outthink someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I like to try to, in those situations, because you can't always predict what someone's going to do. So just hedge your risks. Like kind of, if I'm going to do this, I think my opponent's going to do that, so I'm going to do this, but maybe not go with the hard counter, just something that's neutral in case, you're wrong. And so it's not completely lost, or have a good say swap option.
Yeah, I've gone the hard counter, get it wrong route way too many times. Definitely know that's a thing you would like to avoid.
I think that 90% of the time, people bring the same team most of the time, like on the first game. They may switch up one Pokemon, but they usually bring like at least 2 of those same 3. Because if it like that's their team, they thought that was a good team in the first game, they're probably gonna the second game too, right? So
especially if they win game 1 too.
Yeah, especially if they win game 1, right? Exactly. Yeah. So you can kind of
we can kind of move into that. Talk about picking the teams of 3 a little bit, little bit more. Because I know that like there are a couple mentions through there about using that ABB line of having a double ice in the back, double something, so that if you have if you need to counter this one particular mod, you might have Venusaur in the front. And if you don't catch, you need to catch a Venusaur, you can swap into one of the 2 flyers you have in the back. Swap into the flyer, they'll swap into their flyer counter. You can bring in Venusaur, take that out, and then try and win it from there. That's definitely a strategy that like pretty common. A lot of people do pick that one up. But I guess it does depend on whether it's worthwhile. So I guess what sort of strategies in picking teams of 3 do you kind of go for? Do you go for that ABB? Do you do you rely on that safe swap? Do you rely on trying to win the lead? And that's like, you're really weighted heavily on that one and then try and win it from there. Do you just go, whatever, I'm going to put in these 3, we'll win. I know what I'm doing. I'm a champ. I'm number 5 Hot Pocket. I don't need I don't need
What's funny is that's kind of how I act. I just like say switch here. I'll let's see what happens. But if I really care about the matchup, usually I'll like plan like super ahead. Like they lead this. If this is a bad lead, what are they gonna have to pair with it? How can I plan around it? How can I create counterplay? Like farm down with this, and then now you can like maybe flip this matchup or get shield advantage. So if you have a plan, you're golden. I feel like you just need to like have a detailed plan where you just like calculate what's going to happen. And then if you can do that, you're golden, because you can, even if you get that said bad lead, you aren't as worried, you aren't as tense, you can pull out that win and everything will be okay. That's kind of just how I am, like that. And then, if people were talking about game 3 in the chat, I take risks in game 3. I'll be like, all right, they've been leading this, so I'm just going to go for a hard read and predict that they're going to switch their lead too. And then, that's kind of how I am. If I win the lead, I win it. If I lose the lead, I lose it. As long as I can plan out, as long as I can get myself out of the situation, as long as I know I can, I'm fine. I don't really care.
Yeah, so really just having that like huge arsenal of like knowing the matchups and stuff can really kind of like just help you navigate into whatever sort of matchups might come your way, which is, I guess, really a suggestion to practice. Practice often, frassen hard. That came out a little wrong, but practice.
Yeah, definitely practice.
I mean, Hotpocket went first. Now let's jump all over the place. I'm gonna just boom, 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 boom. Let's go to Bosox guy. I'm assuming that
I don't know.
maybe...
You just kind of said Hot Pocket, so it's kind of said stuff.
Yeah.
So one strategy that I picked up battling Winter Blue in person back in Fusion Cup is he has a notebook, and so ever since then I've kept a notebook, and in that notebook I'll write down my team, my opponent's team, and then I just write like a check or an X against what wins what, obviously. So I write down my team of 3, and then against each of his 6 Pokemon, I have kind of a little like checklist of what I'm gonna do. So say I lead, say in going back to Nightfall, say I lead Metacham and I come into Gallade, right? That's not a good matchup for Metacham. I'm going right into my, say, Flyer, Noctowl, or my own Gallade, and trying to confuse him. Say it's a different matchup. Say it's Metacham into Noctowl. I'm going into my Frostlass with my G-Stun in the back. So it's all about having those win cons, even in the bad lead scenarios.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like ideal. I think Speedy's Chief actually, when he was doing the huge world championships against the other 3 Continental champs, he talked about how he like just went over like every single possible thing that could happen and just like ran them all constantly. And then he just knew exactly what he had to do no matter what happened. Like, obviously not to the, they've swapped on this turn, but like they're going to swap into this mon. I know I need to swap into this mon. So having that kind of, I mean, if you have like just all of your strategy planned out, that's just like OP. It is a lot of work. And I guess it's something that you get better at over time. Is that something that you feel like if you're in an in-person tournament, do you kind of, can you do it quick enough? Like, are you struggling with time?
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely tough to, even in this remote format that we've been in for the last few months, you can't take too long in between matches. So you only have a few, 2 minutes tops in between your battles to think about, what went wrong or what went right in this first game or second game, and then making your changes from there.
Yeah. I think we'll hop over to Adib Khan, and I realized that I've got 2 Zooms open, one to stream it and one to talk in it. So the places of where everyone is actually different. So if I look at this one, he is over there.
I mean, technically, Bosox is over there. So you were just kind of pointing out of me, around me.
I think you're seeing differently as well. We're all going to see people in different
spots.
Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah.
That's funny.
But Adib.
Yeah. So one thing I like to I do like having the kind of ABB kind of idea around. I like to have 2 Pokemon that pressure the same thing so that one of them can sweep. But sometimes the positioning just doesn't work out. For example, let's say I have a Marowak an Abomasnow and a Vigoroth in Sunrise Cup, right? And they're both weak to Marowak, and for Sunrise specifically, there wasn't many counters to Vigoroth besides Marowak or maybe Drifloon. But for non-Drifloon teams, what I would do with Vigoroth is I would still keep it as a safe swap, but I wouldn't use Marowak as my closer. Just because I wanted to use Stunfisk as my closer or something like that. So instead, I would lead Marowak, and so I would have BB and then A in the back. And then if I I keep messing this up. If I would lead Abomasnow in the front, right? So it would be Abomasnow, Vigoroth, and Stunfisk, right? And so if I encounter a Marowak as the lead, right, this is where you would want an ABB, right? So that you can just you would have Stunfisk as your lead, so you wouldn't have to deal with having your safe swap and your Abomasnow being weak to it. But because the Vigoroth matchup with Marowak is so close, I actually really prefer it because like I can switch into Vigoroth, and then that puts my opponent in like a really difficult position because they have to stay in with Marowak to beat the Vigoroth, or they lose switch advantage. So they have to now come up with a timing where, you know, they give enough prior damage to Vigoroth with Marowak that the switch in, which is probably Marowak or like Vigoroth weak, is able to deal with the Vigoroth, but also like not spend enough time with the Marowak that your switch clocks are out of sync. And then like if they like win switch or whatever, you have like switch priority technically because your switch clock is just so much farther ahead. So that might be confusing, but the idea is that you're basically pressuring the lead to make your opponents like make mistakes because you know, like you're switching in something that's also weak to the lead. So they're thinking about staying in, but you know, like there's a more dominant matchup with the Marowak Abomasnow.
Yeah, that's something that I haven't really heard vocalized very much. I have been on the receiving end of that very often. I get put in a situation where I'm like, oh yes, I won the lead, hard counter, and then they swap and I go, oh, but I also want to stay here. And then I just sit there not knowing what to do. I swap into something way too late and you've crushed me. I'm out of there. You put too much pressure on me and I've crumbled. But that's definitely like, yeah, really, really hot strategy if you can get it going. It is one that probably takes a little bit of like, you need to know what you're doing. So you need to practice it a little bit to get that properly under your belt. But definitely
like
really strong.
Very specific for specific Pokemon. Like you want to use it for like spammy things that aren't like great of closers. Like Vigoroth is not like a particularly great closer, just because it just spams a bunch of body slams. But like it doesn't have like the maximized damage like Stunfisk with just Earthquakes, which just one shot a bunch of things. So that's like a great closer. But Vigoroth not as much. So that's where like, you know, having the positioning of Vigoroth in the lead where you can actually take shields, and it's like much more useful because like each body slam is like so cheap but also so damaging, so like it kind of forces shields.
Yeah, so neutral mons, very much like I guess neutral mons do tend to be spammy mons because that just helps you be neutral. Put that real good damage on, and then they can just really flip those matchups. But we might go over to, I need to check like where people are lined up on the stream side, which is we're gonna go to Creasaw over there. If you want to talk about kind of how you pick your teams of 3 going in.
Sure. Like I said, it kind of changes every time. I usually, you know, I'll read the team of 6, right? And if I know they only have 1 counter to this certain Pokemon, and that means they're going to pretty much have to bring it to beat it, right? So you can kind of build a strategy around that. One thing that wasn't really talked about is there's certain Pokemon that you know are going to be in the lead or be closers, right? Like if a Pokemon uses like a Wild Charge or like a debuff move, they're most likely going to be in the lead. So you can kind of build or, you know, think about that as well. And then like a few other strategies I use is just try to get like advantage, right? So just burn shields. I'm okay to lose the lead as long as I get a shield advantage, and then have like a Frostlass in the back that can like, you know, if it shields are down, they can just kind of tear through a team. So that's like another strategy that wasn't we talked about. But other than that, there's always a strategy of just choose the 3 and hope for the best.
Strongest strategy there is.
Yeah, I know, right? And I'm trying to think what else we haven't covered here.
Yeah, that the like Wild Charge and stuff being in the lead is definitely something that I haven't really thought about, to be honest. And it's actually like definitely a really, I guess, somewhat obvious thing that you just have to like realize is there.
Yeah.
Because you're definitely like, you don't want to have to swap into an Electivire, throw a Wild Charge, and then go, I am debuffed.
Exactly, right? Well, and then you definitely kind of see a trend, I feel like, at least for me, kind of see, I definitely saw like a bunch of Medicham leads just over and over and over again this last cup because my team had 3 Pokemon weak to Medicham. So it was like kind of obvious, like, okay, this is going to be a Medicham lead. I saw a bunch of Victory Bell leads just because they know they can kind of just, raise a leaf down and usually try to win the lead. So you can kind of see a trend of, what people are choosing as the lead on your team, and then kind of work a strategy around that and hopefully build a good counter strategy to that as well. So.
For sure. And last but not least, this Burnibus right below me. Easy to point to.
I agree with a lot of what the other panelists have said. Me personally, I have a very probabilistic kind of approach to the game, especially when building my teams of what of my Pokemon have the best matchups overall against the team and also against what I anticipate my opponent bringing. Because when you look at a team, you'll see things that you're like, well, this could be trouble if I don't catch it with this, if I'm down shields, if they have an energy advantage. So I kind of in my head kind of identify what can give me trouble and in what scenarios they can give me trouble. And then I do my best to counter those and avoid those situations. So it's kind of twofold of what I pick and then how I use the 3 that I do pick. A really kind of key example of that from Nightfall was like Frostlass. I use Frostlass a lot as like kind of a safe swap, even against, with G-Fist being so prevalent, because it forces your opponent, because if they're going to swap into G-Fist to counter that Frostlass swap, they have to be fast. Because if they're not, and you get a couple Powder Snows, you're going to get to that second Avalanche before they get to their second Rock Slide and force them to shield or lose switch. So I take a lot of time before, like, prepping for a meta when it's first released, kind of going through, once I know what I'm going to be using on my team, those specific situations of where I can get an advantage by either, getting an energy advantage on one of my Pokemon or getting a shield advantage, like on something like Gallade. I used Gallade as a safe swap a lot too this past month against teams that didn't have Charm. Just because even if they counter into, G-Fist, kind of build up to a couple close combats, shield, a Rock Slide or an Earthquake, and hopefully you get to, those 2 close combats, fire them off. If they're forced to shield both of them if they want their to keep switch, and if they don't, then you're going to be up a shield, and just kind of keeping all of that in mind, and then I had Swampert in the back a lot of the time as like kind of just a another offensive Pokemon that with a shield advantage can usually sweep anything that's in the back, save Victory Bell. So kind of that's my approach to picking teams of 3. And again, also, I usually tend to identify like, okay, if I can identify that I'm like 90% sure my opponent's going to bring this because I only have 1 counter and 1 check to it. I know I need to bring, at least a counter and a check to that, and then take it a step further and think, well, what else is my opponent going to bring along with that Pokemon? You kind of start making kind of predictions based off of what you anticipate them saying and off of what they use once you start playing the games,
Yeah, for sure. I think so. It kind of goes back to what Creasel said in that first bit as well. We kind of have talked a lot about like what a lot of people have been saying is stuff about picking your own lines of 3, just kind of like without any sort of prediction games. Pocket mentioned a little bit as well. But like, yeah, I guess it sounds like there's a lot of not relying on prediction going around. Is that kind of the feel? Just play yourself and predict based on what your best matchups are as opposed to what they might bring in? And anyone can kind of jump in on this if anyone's got any kind of thoughts on, obviously Burnibus just kind of talked about that a little bit with kind of his thinking about that.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll finish my thought and then we can go, around. I try to, there's going to inherently be luck in this game. Like there's kind of no way to take it completely out. So I always just try to minimize how much luck can impact my games by the teams that I pick. You know, I don't want to be coming down to a situation where we each have one Pokemon in the back and it's like me just praying I hard counter it. You know, like I want to always, I want to have as many possible routes to victory as I can. So I guess that's kind of the easiest way to sum it up for me.
Sure. Anyone
I
else
would
got any?
say I want to make things easy, you know. I would like to say I'm okay at predicting leads. To the point where I can get it a few times, like 1 or 2 times per set, where I can identify if I've gone to my opponent's head or not. If I do like a really snazzy play and beat him with 2 shields or something, I know I've successfully like gotten to his head, and then I'll use that and start tilting him by guessing leads. So that's how I usually like to play. But as long as I have my safe swap there, I don't really care about prediction. As long as I know that there's not a surefire way to hard counter me, then I will keep my cool and try and predict leads, but make sure that I can always set up my safe swap or my closer in a good spot in the end.
So your team of 3 is like, I guess, more important than trying to win that lead. At least
Yes.
that goes down to what you were saying before with your strategy, just not relying too much about positioning, just
Right.
knowing that you're able to play out of anything that comes your way, I guess.
Yeah, sounds right.
Anyone else got any thoughts on the importance of prediction in trying to win those leads and whatnot in picking lines of 3? Or is that just irrelevant? Good if it happens. Yeah.
It is what it is.
I feel for
Go ahead.
me, like at least when I do tournaments where I have to like match up against like other aces, I think prediction comes into play a lot more, just because they've already like seen the obvious safe swaps and stuff, and so I feel like more pressure to predict just when I'm playing like really high level players. But
So if you
I
take
don't
on
really
one of these
do it all the
bozos,
time. Yeah, maybe.
Oh.
I guess
I'll be the
that
first to
sound
say
aggressive?
Creaser dominated me this past month, so props to him.
Yeah.
the rivalry can be rekindled. But one thing that I did want to talk about that hasn't, well, it's kind of come up here and there, but we haven't like hard focused on it, is whether it's different going month to month, going from sunrise to marsh to nightfall. Do different cups lend themselves to different strategies in bringing your team of 3? Is one cup, like Sunrise, for example, that has Vigoroth, is that cup going to be far more important to be relying on, say, bringing a ABB with 2 Vigoroth counters in the back, or bringing that Vigoroth as the safe swap? Do certain metas lend themselves to differing strategies, or do you just do the same strategy every time? It keeps working no matter what. We're good. We can just jump in.
I think it does, obviously, right? Each cup has different metas, and so obviously each cup is going to have a different strategy. But I think if you pick a strategy and it seems to be working, I would just stick with it. You know, for Sunrise Cup, I would lead my Shadow Articuno like 80% of the time, because in a 2 shield scenario, I would win all those matches, and then I could kind of dominate the matchup from there. So I would just stick with it, and that seemed to work well, right? So it's just like I would stick with what your strategy is. If it's not working, then don't be afraid to change up your strategy either. Like, don't make yourself go crazy trying to make this team work. Don't be afraid to try to switch up your strategy. Don't be afraid to switch up the Pokemon, and just find something that works for you. Find like your play style. If like like you really like the aggressive play style, which I like. It's kind of like I don't mind swapping out really fast and then kind of putting the opponent on their toes and make a decision, right? Because the way I'm being the aggressor, and then I kind of am forcing the game how I want it to be played. And so yeah, just kind of figure out how you want to play it and just kind of go from there. So
Sure.
Yeah, Creaser,
Yeah,
we
I
had an
agree.
awesome set back in sorry.
No, go
We had
ahead.
an awesome set back in Sunrise, and that Shadow Articuno was lethal. That was crazy.
Mhm.
So going off of what you were saying, I think each meta is full of different Pokemon. I think Sunrise was really full of the big tanky G-Stun, Mantine, Vigoroth. We're all, really thick boys. And, then transitioning next month into Marsh, it's like the thickest Pokemon, the thickest it got was like a Alolan Muck. So definitely catering your team building strategy to the Pokemon that you're comfortable using. I definitely was never really a fan of using Shiftry, Shadow Vic in Nightfall. But if once you start getting comfortable with those, then your play style and your strategy when building teams of 3 has to change along with that.
Yeah, so a bit dependent on the teams of 6 you bring in as well. It's like, well, I guess some metas lend themselves to that a little bit more in Nightfall, for example. Like I was one of those, like, don't hate me, but I did bring Shadow Vic on my team because it was just so oppressive as that safe swap. But that definitely, well, actually, because it is known as that safe swap, I was using it as the lead a lot just because people weren't prepared for it. They would bring their Swampets in the lead or whatnot. But that is kind of like, it forces you to play a certain way. So I guess it does depend a little bit on how that team of 6 is developed a little bit. But
yeah, for sure.
Adi, did you have any thoughts on different meta to meta sort of deal?
Yeah, I think like different metas definitely lend themselves to different kinds of like play styles. I like for example, like was a Toxic Cup, that was season 2. I was just able to run the same line of 3 like every game, and I think I won 18-0 with like a 6-rounder, just because like I found a way to kind of like, I don't know, just like have a solid matchup like with that just team of 3 always. But that's not the case for I think these 3 metas so far. I don't think there's like one safe swap that just like is not hard walled by anything like meta. Just for like this season of Silph, I think they've done a great job of just like making it so like you can't really use the same like lineup all the time. And you have to do a little bit of prediction work just because like I don't really think there's like just like one comp that you can use in any of the Silph metas so far. I don't think that's the case for like Cerberus either. So
I think what that actually comes back to is that these first few metas have been some of them are very similar to that open Great League sort of setting, especially Sunrise, for example, where you're seeing that, G-Fisk just shrekking everywhere. But I think that lends itself to just being a very balanced meta, the closer you are to that open Great League. And the more balanced the meta is, the more balanced you're going to have to make your teams of 6. And then it's just like, okay, well, my entire team of 6, like each Pokemon beats 2 of your Pokemon. So it's just about, I guess it goes a little bit more into playing correctly, lining stuff up, knowing how to play out of stuff a little bit more. And I guess so yeah, very, very meta dependent overall. Were there any like other thoughts on that before we like skedoodle on?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is, yes, every month the Silph metas will change, the cups will change, and the types of metas they present will be different. You go back and you have something like Sorceress, which was, in my opinion, a really technical meta, which allowed you to come back from lost leads, from having a lot of switching, a very dynamic sort of meta, compared to something like Rose, in my opinion, which is a lot more rock, paper, scissory, where, winning the lead are important. And because of that, and since we will see so many different things month to month, I think it's best to kind of be good at a bunch of different kind of team building and approach to the different ways to approach your matches than to try to master just one single strategy, because you can't guarantee that one single, strategy that you excel at is going to work in a given month, I guess.
Sure. So I think that's all that we kind of had on the slate for talking about that team building. We have some demo is going on. But before we move on to some practical learning, is there like anything else that anyone wants to say kind of about teams of three, something that you don't think we've kind of covered yet, don't think we've talked about, something we really should put some more focus on? Maybe you want to hear from everyone else about like a certain thing, just anything at all. Don't all jump in at once.
I'll just do the thing. But one thing I do want to say is you're going to make mistakes, right? So don't beat yourself up about it. I make so many mistakes, and I'm going to still make mistakes, but I kind of just, the whole point is to just keep getting better. And don't be afraid to keep the same line of three if you know that you're like, okay, I just made this one mistake and I'm not going to make it again. Just because you make a mistake and it doesn't work out that one time doesn't mean it's not going to work out the next time. So
yeah, definitely a good piece of advice. I agree on that a lot. I've had a lot of times back in first, like season 2, I would screw things up, you know. Sometimes I would switch barrel into a Galvantula and I'll be like, oh, I guess I lose. And then, you know, it just happens. And, you know, mistakes happen. And as long as you can pick yourself back up and come back and know that that line can still work, like you just, you know, you had the Steelix right there, but then you swapped up a barrel, you know. If that happens and you know that you can, even if they know what your line is, still win, then, you know, just run it.
That actually is something that we haven't really talked about. Like it came up, but again, we didn't like focus on it. When you kind of lose with a line of three that you've put together, obviously sometimes it's going to be, yep, I made a very silly decision that I should not have done, and it basically just cost me the game. But like in those sorts of situations, then it's totally understandable to just go, yep, I know I could have won. I'll go in with the same three, clean up, play a little cleaner, and we should be able to win this game. But when is it time to stick with the same three? Or more, do you stick with the same three throughout? Because I personally tend to like, if I'm like in a rush, if I'm in an in-person tournament, I tend to like pick three and then just move those three around because I know, hey, these three are like good against their team. So it's just about moving them around and play out of like whatever we get. Do you kind of move around within one set? I know like there've been some mentions of like want to use your whole squad throughout the tournament in general. Do you tend to gravitate to using a good three against one opponent, or do you move around?
Yeah, so I think definitely recognizing, you know, assuming you've played game one, if you lose, then you have to recognize whether or not you lost because of a mistake that you made. You lost because of alignment, so meaning your lead was, you know, just in the wrong spot, or your safe swap was in the wrong spot, or if you just got beat, you know, if you're just hard countered all three mons, and then recognizing, you know, how to move on from that. So I think if you lose because of a mistake, then you're pretty much in the clear to, you know, recognize that mistake. I did this wrong, and then lock in that same three. If you want, maybe switch a lead, switch whatever you want. If you lose because of alignment, that's where I would take a look at the lead specifically, trying to catch, you know, a G-Fisk lead or a Swampert lead, and, you know, get it, and it's in the back, and that just runs straight on your team. That's definitely a problem. And then moving on from there, if you just get hard countered, that's probably when it's time to just mix it up and go with it and see if you can bring 2 new mons, even 3 new mons, and see if it sticks, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else? Burner bus?
So what I will do, if I think I have a really good matchup with a specific team of 3, I feel like that if I play well and don't make mistakes, that I'll win. I will keep using that same team of 3 until my opponent shows me that they can beat it, you know. But once I do lose, or I feel like that the matchup is very even, then I'm more open to definitely mixing things up. If there's no one, or, you know, one clear set of 3 or 3 out of 4, then yeah, I think if you start becoming predictable, it opens up kind of a weakness that your opponent can exploit. You know, if you know, you continue running. If you lead the same, if you have the lead and run the same team of 3 in games 1 and 2, and let's say you do lose one of them, there is some merit to saying like your opponent might think, oh, they're not going to lead the same thing 3 times in a row. And I've been burned on that before, but a lot of people out there are going to call you on that. So you just have, I think you have to be very careful running the same set of 3 over and over again, because it will burn you sometimes. I think, as Creaser was saying earlier, it's never a bad thing to force your opponent to make tough decisions, whether it's switching, whether it's in leads. I think actually Pocket even mentioned this too, is a lot of times in game 3, I'll be a little more bold, because a lot of people tend to think that, this is an important game 3, it's tied 1-1. Like, you can't get too adventurous or risk just losing. So I think game 3s are sometimes the best time to kind of throw a curveball, because your opponent might not be ready for it. So,
Creaser, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with all that. And kind of unfortunately, sometimes it's a situation, if I lose game 1 and it's like, oh, if I only had Venusaur in the back to match up against the Swampert, I would have won, right? But then you kind of get in your head like, okay, do I want to have Venusaur in the back because maybe next time he's going to bring something else in the back too. So unfortunately, it's kind of just guessing at that point sometimes, but you don't ever want to kind of get into a situation where that even is the case anyways. But unfortunately, sometimes team comps kind of just line up that way, where it's like, okay, it just matters what's in the back. And if it's hard counter, then I win. If it's not, then I lose, type of thing. So it's kind of just the nature of the game, but you want to definitely just find yourself in a situation where that won't matter.
Yeah, I mean, if you can avoid it, avoid it.
Yeah.
Don't lose. That's the the ultimate
exactly.
strat.
Like, oh, if they have Wigglytuff in the back, I lose. Like, let's hope they don't, type of thing. Sometimes it happens, but
yeah,
you just gotta kind of have to guess and go with it. So,
Adib, you're the only one who hasn't talked on it at all. Hot
yeah.
Pocket like inspired it, but
yeah. Let me actually turn on my light. I've just kind of turned off. Oh crap! Never mind.
what was
I thought I still had daylight. All right.
Getting a little later in your time zones, as opposed to the beautiful sun.
I noticed I just like the thing I was warning about happened. I just completely became dark. So
silhouette calm.
Yeah. So I think one thing is like, yeah, if you lose, it's really important to like adapt to understand like what your opponent's strategy was. It's like, oh, they use double fighting here. I might not want to use double tank or something like that, or like I might want to save my like flying to the end or something. Like that could be things going through your head. But also like from a winning position, it's really crushing to like have one strategy, like you're just using double fighting and then immediately switch to like double like anti flying, so like double tank, just because like it's so hard to predict it. It's definitely happened to me. I believe Elisa Noble used this. She used double fighting and then double tank against me, and it's just really hard to predict, like so that's why it's kind of useful, like if like this might be something that your opponent might be doing, like they have like the game knowledge and like the experience to kind of recognize the situations like double fighting is not always going to work. They have 2 flyers, they have like 2 synergistic things that can work against your fighters. Like for the winner side, you might want to switch out of it, and for the loser side, you might want to anticipate the switching out of it and like construct a team that works against like both kind of ends of the spectrum.
I guess ideally, best case scenario, you've built a team of 3 that can handle anything, right? Like,
yeah,
even if they try and swap to hard counter you, you're still going to have that safe swap to come in, get that bit of energy that it needs to then be able to beat whatever counter they can bring in, or you use a different safe swap or all sorts of things. Win. win. But
Just win.
Pocket, we did kind of like jump from what you said, but is there anything else that you wanted to add on that sort of realm, or?
Not really. I think everyone touched on what my thoughts pretty well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, so the next thing that was on the bill was to get some like practical learning going on. Use get some like real tournament matches, some real teams that we used, and try and like pick some teams of 3. And then because they were past matches, we can then look at what the opponent brought as their 3 and see if we, you know, had any idea what was going on. Right. So yeah, like because we're on Zoom, anyone can screen share just to kind of get us rolling. I can bring one up from my end. So I'll share screen, go to this video. This is from Sunrise Cup. And this is when I was number 2 in the world, because I did the first tournament in the world. So
I remember this. Yeah.
Just had to wait this 3-1 and whoop, up we went to rival. Which awesome time. But you know, these are a bunch of the teams that were in there, and we can kind of jump to any round here. So if we start at round 2, maybe against Fish and a Heater, I'm not sure if we're going to have the team. Okay, there's the teams. Okay, so it's a little bit inconvenient. So my team is up here at the top. Fish and a Heater's team is here to the left of the cursor. So we're running Altaria, Mantine, G-Fisk, Vigoroth, Alolan Marowak, and Ferrothorn. They're holding on to that Mantine, Skarmory, Swampert, Vigoroth, Abomasnow, and G-Fisk. So obviously it's a little bit different just because it's a bit of a different scenario because you haven't built this team. This may not be the best balanced team in the world because, you know, it was literally the first Sunrise Cup tournament. So obviously people weren't super educated and stuff. But even though this is a bit jumped on you as well with random teams, what are you kind of thinking that maybe we can go from the other way? Or what would you use if you just were forced to use this 6 against this 6? And what do you reckon Fish and Heater is going to bring in that first game? Bit of an out there experiment sort of.
If I'm Fish on the Heater, I would recognize that Skarmory is really good. The Ferrothorn matchup isn't that bad. I would say AWAC is workable. If you get some energy, you can Brave Bird it and just destroy it, or you can hit Sky Attacks and start chipping it down for the next Mon. The only really bad matchup is G-Fisk. So then that's where I would pair it with Vigoroth Safe Swap. I would lead Skarm, Safe Swap Vigoroth, and then have either a G-Fisk or like an Abomasnow in the back to cover my weaknesses. Abomasnow is a big risk because AWAC lead just destroys you, but it is a good one if like you're afraid of G-Fisk, Swampert, and Mantine on the same line.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? We've heard one Skarmory lead from Fish and a Heater prediction, running that Vigoroth Safe Swap, which, you know, was all the rage in Sunrise, and then backing up with Abomasnow or G-Fisk or Swampert.
Any Mon in the back could work there, but I would most likely go with G-Fisk as a good closer.
Yeah, I think Mantine is also good, at least decent, pretty decent against most of the team too. So I'd kind of prepare to see Mantine too at some point in the set. It's one of those things that doesn't really beat anything hard, but it doesn't really lose to anything all that hard either. You know, so it's a good kind of option as a safe swap or a lead. It also depends on moveset. So that's something we didn't really touch on. I don't think
that's
earlier.
actually very true.
Try to keep in mind as much information that you get from a match as possible. Movesets are one that are super important. You know, that what that Mantine is running kind of changes a lot of the matchups across the board. Like if it has Ice Beam, you know, it has something to threaten Altaria. Is there anything it wants Aerial Ace for? Not really. So, but yeah.
Yes, we can kind of like blast discuss it maybe after this battle, talking about like if you see a Hypno on the other team, well, how do you kind of prepare for that? That'll be discussion point after this battle, I reckon, because that's definitely one that has tripped me up in the past. Just assuming they're going to have this move set, and then
yeah, for sure.
That was a Ice Punch, Thunder Punch Hypno. Oops.
Or a Shadow Ball Focus Blast. Oof.
Yep. Oopsies. But anyone else have any thoughts on, maybe what Fish might bring, what we're kind of predicting to come, what Steve from 4 months ago should have brought the Fool?
I'm going to guess he's going to lead a bomb snow. It's a very common lead. So that's what I'm going to guess.
Yeah, I say that you're going to lead AWAC.
Okay, well, if we get the
AWAC
matchup.
I would lead AWAC there. Just like say, you get 2 waters. Whatever. Just gonna.
You're not going to lead them.
That's bold.
Maybe they go ABB.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's how I'd play it if I were you. But I think the safer lead would be like an Altaria or a G-Fisk lead.
Is your Ferrothorn Thunder?
That's what
this Ferrothorn is a Power Whip Thunder.
Oh my god, my webcam's like dying every 10 minutes.
We didn't want to see your face anyway. Oh, we get the static image.
Either way, you're going to be seeing my face. Anyway.
I'm thinking you're going to utilize Vigoroth as a safe swap.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we ready? Are you ready to go in? Hopefully I haven't muted it. Mute. Okay. Let's go in. Dun, 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 dun. Come on, Fish. Choose your team.
I love that name, though. Fish on a heater.
Well, we saw the Abominus Node leads. There's one.
Oh, good. Okay, here we go.
Ooh,
There's one prediction, right? Oh, yeah, we can like just watch it. But we went with the Mantine lead, which is obviously not one that anyone mentioned was a good idea.
See, if I told you, AWAC lead there would have been really nice.
Yeah. If only Hot Pocket was coaching me through the Swift tournament, we would have been sweet. But was that Ferrothorn and Marowak in the back? So not even a Vigoroth safe swap. Yeah, Ferrothorn and Marowak hanging out in the back. He's brought the Vigoroth safe swap, and then we don't actually have to like watch the battle, or we can. Either way, panel decides.
Yeah, Ferrothorn is actually pretty good against Vigoroth. I've used it as a safe swap in Sunrise just because like you can win the 1 shields against it.
Yeah, especially with energy.
Yeah, which the Vigoroth did swap in fairly quick, but skip. And Swampert in the back.
I mean, he had Abominus Snow and Vigoroth, so like, this is actually the exact team I talked about. Oh man.
We've jumped into a new game there, but is that a Marowak versus Stunfisk in the lead? I can't catch a break. I think Fish and Heater was the one that I actually lost against. Pretty sure that was my one loss out of the four rounds. That's why we went 3-1. But if anyone's got any battles on their end that they might want to share, I know Hot Pocket had that one.
I don't. Well, let me see. I don't know if I can get it to work.
That way we can look at some like actual.
I can't. So the person I fought in this season hasn't done any battles, so you can't get them both on one screen since I'm at the top. But let's see if I can get this to work. All right,
you can snipping tool the bottom one and then drag it up next to it.
So this is let's see. This is a tournament I did. It was an all elite and legend tournament. I can't type. I had a pretty good run. It's not that bad.
You beat me?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. So it was, I only lost to the champion, so it wasn't that bad. I was kind of rooting for Kev here for the tie, but it is what it is. All right, so
that's an okay performance. That's okay.
It is what it was. Pretty nice because I was a low elite, and everyone else was like mid or high elite. So my win, it shot me way high.
This is a stacked tournament.
So this is my line. It's a pretty standard line. The only real special thing is like kind of beetle. It's pretty fun to use. It's basically my MVP. My favorite match was versus Vonnie, but since I lost that one, I'm not going to show it. Let's show one where I win. Let's do
selective bias.
What do you mean? Hot Pocket always wins every match.
So this is going to be one for me versus Memo VP. So for this team, if you guys want to predict, it's whatever you guys can. It's a pretty good, very even team selection, I would say, just from looking at it. I'm sorry about having to scroll all the way up and back. But
Well, actually, because you're doing display capture, if you've got like snipping tool or something like in there, you can like snipping tool the bottom team and then just drag it up.
oh, I don't know how to do. I don't know how to do that on my computer. Let's see.
Master editor Steve over here.
Yeah, me and my paint illustration.
That's it. I was thinking in my
doesn't-
head like I would use paint to do that.
Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. All right, so let's see. We've got this line up here. You know, it's a pretty good line.
So we've got Beedrill, Venusaur, Lapras, Umbreon, Sudowoodo, and Graveler. A Graveler.
Yeah, a Grav. And then we've got
We might be able to see a team
Memos.
that's similar down here, maybe.
Memo with Pseudo, Frostlass, Umbreon, Vespiquen, Video.
Does Pennywise right above Memo have the same team as you, but Vespiquen instead of Beedrill? Did you have a Bomber Snow? No, you had.
Oh, he has
Graveler.
a Graveler.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
if we want to pretend this is a
Let's just
Beedrill and a
pretend.
Graveler.
Yeah, Beedrill Graveler. Okay. That was a pretty even matchup. When I first saw it, I couldn't really see a huge advantage in any of my mons.
It's interesting because there's a lot of unique mons going on here. So like they're the only one with the Vespiquen when we're pretending. They're the only with the Frostlass. And then you've got the Beedrill, a Graveler. And that's the two swap. And then Pennywise, you've got Lapras. Wait, what else? What else are they using? A Bomber Snow. That's the other pretend.
Yeah.
So Lapras instead of a Bomber Snow. A Bomber Snow has usually got the better matchup there.
What do you guys think I would do here? From looking back on this, I feel like I made a stupid mistake. But I guess it worked out, my set versus him. So let's jump into this battle. So rocking a summer outfit.
Ooh,
Chilling.
Shiny Beedrill.
Yeah, it's rank
Fancy.
6.
You fancy pocket. You fancy.
All right. So this is weird. My iPod was overheating and it would not show it would not show the Umbreon. I was like, what the hell is this?
Maybe because you're playing on an iPod.
Yeah, I was gonna on an iPod.
Yeah. So I'm all right. So I'm like,
Number 5 in the world, everyone.
Yeah, I was gonna say number 5 in the world on hard mode.
All right. So I took me a bit to realize it was an Umbreon, right? So actually no wait, I had sound on, so I did hear it was an Umbreon from the very beginning. But so I take the foul play, and I swap because and now that I have a drill run, I'm okay with them having a Sudowoodo, right?
So really putting the pressure on with that swap because obviously you didn't have to. Beedrill has got a pretty nice.
That was usually my strategy, was to get some energy on Beedrill because I knew I could always get enough drill run. Now here I just Skull Bash. This is stupid. I could have just double surfed, but I Skull Bash. I thought this would be that. I thought it would surprise him, but he has a brain, so he shields. But I know if he does that, it leaves him a good spot for farming. So chilling.
Yeah.
So you've got Beedrill in the lead, and it's actually kind of that spot where, kind of what was mentioned before about having that swap, even though you're in a good spot, although in a slightly different way than what Adib was saying before, in which case just swapping into another Pokemon that is looking good. It's from one good Pokemon to another good Pokemon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And I guess they didn't have a hard counter on their line of 3. Like they brought in Venusaur, which Lapras is still going to be doing a nice little bit of damage, especially with that energy advantage.
So the reason that I didn't shield that there is just because I had a feeling it was going to be a Frostlass based on what they swapped there.
Right.
And so I did say this before, but the reason that why I've led Beedrill is that because my Beedrill can beat most Beedrills for that matter can beat Vespiquen in the 2 shield. So that's why I would double shield it or catch a power gem on my Lapras and come out with a big advantage.
So you beat Vespiquen, you beat Venusaur, you beat Umbreon.
And I can also.
How did you play this game?
Yeah, what is going on, Pocket?
Pokemon going here right now, Pocket.
You're number 5 in the world
right now.
You know what?
You are playing on hard mode, my friend.
I'm starting to understand what you were saying before about how you just go with the flow. See what happens.
That's awesome.
All right, so now I'm swapping out. I'm gonna use
Are
my
you?
go runs.
My God.
Here we go. At least I can see what I'm hitting this time.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
here we go.
this is
Go run,
awesome.
Joe run. I'm stupid here and I hit X scissor. This could have costed me the game. I don't know what I was thinking,
Oh, I've done
but
this
it
all
was
the time,
funny.
too.
Actually,
Just wanted
well,
to
okay.
flex.
See, now
So
I
you
was
maybe
like,
like didn't
I
hit.
felt like my
You
I
missed
felt
the
like my heart
bubble.
stopped for a second there.
Oh,
All right,
Wow.
so I have a bad lead, and I still win because Lapras OP. So let's see what happens in game 2. This is a pretty good one. Oh God, Sled. It's not.
I don't think you're sharing the audio from your end,
Oh,
by the
okay.
way. So it's not loud for us. So it's all good.
Okay.
Just blaring your ears out.
So here
I
we
mean,
go.
Clearly, you don't need sight for your battles, so I can't imagine you need sound either.
See, look, I just do the same thing, and look what happens. That's why I just do the same thing. See, and you got Graveler just gonna blast this ghost girl back to where it came from.
You've got yourself in another positive spot here with the Gravel versus Frostlass.
Right.
They're just kind of hanging out.
Blast the last, like what the D said in the chat. So, it's a pretty good fight. Just kind of chilling, hitting the last again. Just deny my piggybacking is not a thing anymore, and I learned that the hard way. Pretty good fight. Shield. So now I'm like, oh man,
Ruh-roh.
and I land this.
Nice.
So it's just a GG. Oh, and hard mode is back on again. The glowing ball. And then I basically just by doing the same thing won just because he overthought it, and that's usually how it is. If I beat him in that kind of fashion. I had a feeling that he almost had me, that he died with the avalanche. So that's why I did the same thing, because I thought he was going to overthink it and just be tilted from that first game.
Yeah.
And play a little worse. That health bar.
Yeah, this is something.
How often does this happen, Poggett?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that much anymore. I don't really play on my iPod anymore. All right, so here we go.
Was there a reason?
Because at my dad's, before he was not that comfortable with me just bringing my phone over, so I'd play on the iPod I got like a year ago, and it was
Make do with what you've got.
It worked.
Technically.
And when I record it, it's like super overheats and sometimes it drops frames, but I got lucky that time. So yeah. So now he's tilted. I've got him on the first 2 games. Let's see what happens in game 3.
So are we running the same line? Okay, we're going into the Lapras
See, now
lead.
I was trying to see if I could get a Vespiquen lead here. And I was like, come on, give me the lead. No,
That's no Vespiquen, buddy.
It's a weird looking Vespiquen.
Yeah, that's a weird looking bee.
Is that what a boy Vespiquen looks like?
I hit a surf. I do the denial tactic before that was even a thing. Look at me.
Yeah.
So now I hit the surf. Excellent. Yeet. Now he shields. I'm like, all right.
And they haven't swapped yet, because why would they swap, right?
They have no reason
But
to
you
swap.
get the surf first. Was
Right,
that because of the denial?
It takes 7 to the first rock slide.
Yeah.
And since it's a 3-2 ratio, they're gonna have 6 before okay. I know he died with the move there. But since it's a 3-2 ratio, I know that I'm gonna get 4 off, and then they get 6 off, 6 counters. So they're gonna be 1 away when I hit my surf.
And
now,
again, they're running that Venusaur as their like kind of only Lapras counter there.
Right. And then I don't know what I was thinking here, but it was a play. Actually, no, this was actually the best way to go about it. I need to keep my Lapras alive. But I drilled this last,
So So why did
Man.
they make the swap into Pseudo Widow lead? I guess they wanted the Lapras lead, right?
Well,
Then the other thing
Sudowoodo
would be
versus
Agraf.
B is not that bad. You know, there's a bit of lag, not that much. And then now I'm gonna surf. And then here's the fun. So I kill it, and then now I'm like, oh crap, I can't switch out. And then now it's a Venusaur versus Venusaur. I'm shaking because I'm like, I want to 3-0 him. That'd be pretty cool. So I shield the Sludge Bomb. Nice. And then I hit this. I don't know why. I had a feeling that my Venusaur was worse than his, but I still bait. I don't know why I baited here. So we hit
It's
defensive
feeling
line,
like it.
and then he doesn't shield. He doesn't shield.
I guess that was
I
like
thought
the
that was his only win
only.
condition.
Yeah, the
Knowing
only
me,
possible win
I-
condition is if Frenzy Plant happens to not
Yeah.
take me out.
Hmm.
But like knowing me, if he had shielded there, I would have gone for Sludge Bomb and then lost. But yeah, I have a lot of
50-50
good.
mind games at the end.
I had a lot of sets like this. You know, I had my own versus Vonnie. I accidentally hit a fast move and then just lost. Like I had a double surf versus Sudowoodo, but instead of hitting the surf, I hit an Ice Shard. And then, you know, I lose CMP because he has double Rock Slide. I'm like, it is what it is.
It is what
Yeah.
it is.
So yeah, it was a good way to.
Actually,
I like it.
now that I've remembered, we can go back to that quick talk about the move set sort of deal, Hypno and that.
Yeah.
If you are seeing like a Hypno on the other team, how do you approach that? Do you pick move sets? Do you say, I'm going to hope that it's not this move set and just run right for it? Do you kind of leave more shields on the table? Or do you just hope, even in Hypno meta, you're going to have a hard counter of some kind, just waiting to go?
Yeah, so versus Hypno, I always just assume, absolute worst case scenario. It doesn't apply as much in GBL, but when I'm running my GBL team, I run Obama Snow, and I just assume every single move is Fire Punch from Hypno.
Yeah.
So translating that into Silph, if you're running it in a meta, I forget even the last time we could have used Hypno. It was definitely way back in season 2.
I think
Sorceress.
Voyager was the last time it was popular.
Sorceress, maybe?
Sorceress was the month after Voyager? Or was it
Yeah,
the other way around?
I think Voyager was the last time I remember it being popular, but
It was definitely super popular in Voyager.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, in a cup like Voyager, where a lot of people are using Azumarill, you're going to assume it's got Thunder Punch. So you want to, even that doesn't do a whole lot of damage to your Azumarill. But then going off of that, you want to try and figure out what its second move is. Generally, Fire Punch or Shadow Ball, I think, are the next two most popular sets. And the most popular in general is Shadow Ball. So I think that's a great place to start until you know for sure.
I kind of agree with Bosucks guy. That's kind of how I went about it for most of season 2 when I fought Hypnos. Recently, when I look at Hypnos on teams, I look at the rest of the team. What do without Hypno, what holes does this said team have? Why is Hypno there? So from there I think, okay, they wanted X and Y coverage. So I can usually think and use that kind of thinking to solve at least one of the moves. Usually I can come across okay, they have a clear grass weakness. They're going to have Fire Punch or something like that.
I want to kind of test you on that a little bit. Random extra fun little exercise is I used Hypno in Voyager Cup, and I think that's obviously a really actually good way to try and pick out the Hypno moveset, finding why the Hypno is there, what roles it can fill. But in my Voyager Cup, I'm just gonna pick random one. Oh, let's pick the one I won. Let's pick that one. And if we just share this screen, what moveset does this Hypno have? Da-da-da-da.
Ooh,
This is wait.
This
This
is
is
Voyager
unfortunate.
Cup.
Wait,
Voyager
this
Cup.
is unfair because I watched this video. I'm pretty
Oh.
sure.
Dang it!
I'm pretty sure I watched this video. I could be wrong.
Yeah, you probably did. It was like one of the first regionals that actually happened in the world.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that was-
I know this is Thunder Punch as right off the bat. You lack Azu coverage besides like Meganium, maybe the mirror.
yeah.
So you want
Mhm.
Azu. You also have a massive. If I just saw this team without knowing it, I would say something like Shadow Ball just to have some coverage. But I know this is Focus Blast, isn't it?
Yep, that's a focus blast.
I love Hypno. You know, if you guys saw me streaming back in Great League, I used Focus Blast Hypno in combination with Brave Bird Surfetched. I had a
Oof.
blast. It was hilarious.
A focus blast.
Just pun not intended. But yeah, I like how Focus Blast works. It's if you have something that can like drop the tank, then you just Focus Blast it and then you just auto win because you basically have a 3v2.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't my regionals, this is just my local one. But in regionals, I won an entire round just landing Focus Blast. And that's it. That's all I did.
I remember I lost my first round in regionals because I got gunk shotted by an A-Mug, and then the same game Focus Blasted by a Hypno.
Ooh.
That
F.
just tilted me for the entire the rest of the tournament. I just like went 3-3, you know.
Rip.
That's why I'm never in continentals.
Rip.
Did anyone else have anything to say about like Hypno strats? Because like we only
like
didn't hear much. Or
anything
no,
else
not
about
just
movesets?
Hypno. I guess Azu was another one that
Yeah, I was gonna say that is like I see Hypno and Azu kind of in the same bucket as they're kind of like Swiss Army knives that can fill in holes for any team. So I think what Pocket said is probably the best way to approach it is just take a look at a team, what it's so you know what moves it can have. You know the handful of the elemental punches, focus blast, shadow ball, and I guess Psyshock. They're feeling
Psyshock.
legacy spicy. And then just go through and say what coverage would be most useful for the team. What punches or shadow ball, what would help the most to just maximize coverage. And I think that's a good starting point to go off of until you actually see in the matches what they have. And I think there's something to be said about in certain situations of forcing them to throw like a move. I guess it wouldn't have come up too often, but if you have the match kind of won and you have like Azu in the back, like just swap into Azu and see like if they're half health Hypno, what they'll throw. Like see if you can get like, oh, it Thunder Punch to me, it has Thunder Punch, or if it's Shadow Ball, it doesn't have Thunder Punch for future games, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, there were lots of stuff like when people were using Hypnos, for example, where they were like, I've lost this battle. I'm only using this one charge move I've thrown for the rest of the battle.
And that's smart.
Even if I have a chance, the slimmest of chances of winning, it's not worth it. I'm probably not going to win. We'll just go down. You have only seen Thunder Punch.
Right.
But I guess on that is like after you go, okay, we figured out that this is probably their hole. These would be the best move for Hypno to have. Do you then go, I'm going to assume that it's that? And if I get hit with a focus blast, heck.
Well, with Hypno, you have to be very like attentive. You have to realize like you have to think about the counting. If they're charging up a lot of energy, I'm probably going to shield the first one. Because, like if you either they're building up to a double punch or they're about to destroy your life with focus blast. So, if I cannot just decide on the second move on something on the Hypno or whatever mon, I will usually play it safe for the first games. If I know I need to take a risk to win, I'll take that risk. But if it's something I can't bet on, I won't do it.
And worst case, if you lose that first game, you've picked wrong, you let a focus blast come through and wreck your Bastion, you're done. You'll know that for the next games. So you can still like try and take it back for that 2-1 as well.
There you go.
Right. The sense of surprise is away.
Yeah. I know running my Focus Blast one, you can only run that once.
Yeah.
For it to be a
Definitely
surprise.
one-trick pony.
But it could win you a game, and that could be enough, you know? Then
Yeah, then you only need one
have to
more.
win. Yeah, exactly.
In before someone uses it, but you can also kind of tell that a Hypno's not going to have Focus Blast if it's Shadow, because it goes against like each other, because you know you don't need that extra damage on Focus Blast, and also the Shadow is going to make it so you're less likely to get to that Focus Blast. But I mean, someone's going to use it because it's going to be a huge surprise. But
Undeniable surprise, but yeah, that's definitely very hard to get to. So it might be too much of a risk. But it's an option if you really want to run that risk. But I think that's kind of all we have to discuss, unless anyone wants to bring up some like other battles. But yeah, I think that might be it. I think we're good. I think we've done it.
Touched on most of the stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so really good discussion.
Yeah, I guess,
I've learned a lot.
right. I guess maybe to close, I would pose a question for the other panelists to chime in is, for those here, you know, trying to get better, you know, what is one or two key ideas you think would help, you know, a kind of a newcomer or a person who's been around for a while and wants to take their game to the next level? What do you think are maybe, you know, an idea or two you think are really helpful to focus on?
That is a brilliant last question. Burnobus for host. Let's go through.
Sorry. Wasn't trying to steal your thunder, Steve.
Let's do it like simultaneous. We'll go like Adib, answer the question, and then also tell us where to find you. Plug whatever you need to plug. Yeah, we'll go through that way. That's how King used to do it back in the day. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, so I think one thing that's really helpful, I notice specifically for me is like a pretty huge difference is the difference between like warm hands and cold hands, and just like being in the practice. You don't have to like practice all the time. Like I know for Nightfall and March, I like did one day of team building and then, you know, just went into my tournaments. But it's nice to have like maybe a GBL set or something beforehand before you like start playing, just because like your mechanics are very important in this game. Like every turn really counts, just because like there's so many moves that just like deal tons of damage on just like one turn, or they'll grant you a ton of energy on one turn. So just like one fast move is like a huge difference. So, you know, just like sharpening up on your like technical skill and just like being able to like, you know, react to things quickly. It's just like nice to have your hands warm for that.
That's an interesting tip. I've never actually heard of that one, but also where can we find you after the stream if people want to go?
Oh, yeah.
I need, there might be some sort of project that might be underway.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't really use social media, but if you want to follow what I'm up to, I am working on a project that will recreate Pokemon Go PvP on the web so that you can finally use Aegislash and fight people with it. So if you want to be interested in that, or you want to contribute or just like be on the notification list, you can check out my Reddit at AdibCon. Like I have a post there. And hopefully Steve can put it on the YouTube description or whatever.
Everyone's links are going to be in the YouTube VOD. So we can upload this VOD 24 hours after the stream ends, because that's affiliate rules. So once that time has passed, we'll upload the VOD to YouTube. I did the like exclamation mark YouTube command in chat, so you can go subscribe over there if you want to watch the full VOD after, and that's where all the links will be. But yeah, it's like a Pokemon Showdown sort of deal, but for Pokemon Go, which is like really awesome. Like you can obviously use the PvPoke training simulator, but you can't use that to battle other people. So this is going to be a way to really just bring stuff up, be able to practice the mons you don't have against other people who are also doing the same things. You mentioned like the ability to maybe like you could run a tournament using that sort of thing. But yeah, really cool. So we'll keep going alphabetical, because that's how he introduced you in. It's how we'll walk out. So take it away, Bo Sox.
Great, yeah. So I think my biggest tip for specifically newcomers to PvP and Pokemon in general is learning type effectiveness. That's something that I think everybody still is. I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that can tell you exactly every single type combination on the spot, like what it's weak against, what it's super effective against. That's definitely something that is, it can flip matches. I think Creaser earlier in the chat mentioned he had people throwing earthquakes at his Gligar. Like you don't want to be doing that. So learning type effectiveness is huge. And to finish off, my name's Jackson. I'm on Twitter, BoSoxGuy7. So yeah.
I probably should have I really should have got the links ready to go, post in the chat. But
it's all good.
I was not that organized. So I'll post them out on Twitter as well as the VOD. So that'll all be there. But thank you, Burnabus.
Sure. I think one thing that I'd recommend, I think that's very useful for trainers at any skill level, is record your matches and watch them back afterwards, especially on the losses. Think about what you could have done differently to put yourself in a position where you could have won. If but keep in mind, you don't know complete information, but if I would have done this, save swap here, could have opened a window for me to do X, Y, and Z and come out on top. And then also watch your wins and kind of take note of what worked, what went well and allowed you to come out with the victory, and just kind of be conscious of what's working, what doesn't, and where you can improve. And I think also just taking in as much content as you want. There's a ton of great streamers and people on YouTube making quality content. It's all that info is out there at your fingertips, and it's tons of different resources to continue to better your game. And very happy how far this Pokemon Go is growing in this community, and I'm happy to be a part of it. I have a Twitter that I don't use all that often, but it's just Burnobus at 7337. That's all I got.
Awesome. Creasor.
I think the biggest thing for me when I just started doing PvP this last March, and the biggest thing for me to improve was learning the counts, right? Just kind of figuring out, okay, how many mud shots it takes to get to rock slide, that kind of thing. And then learning what you can tank as well. So if you can survive this, then there's no need to shield. Or if I don't shield, it's going to be super risky, but just that type of thing. I think those are the kind of the biggest things that helped me improve. And then kind of just write things down as well. Kind of like what Burnabus said, keep track of the Pokemon you've seen, and then what Pokemon they have used, and kind of just figure out how to improve your gameplay from there. Other than that, I made a Twitter yesterday, and it's Creaser PvP, and you can follow me there. Maybe now that I'm getting better, I'll start making some content, and we can go from there.
I'll be there to watch it when you do.
Thanks. One thing I do want to say is, I really do enjoy this community. Everyone's so friendly. Everyone's so welcoming. I've been part of other gaming communities. I'm pretty old. I'm 30 years old. And this PvP Pokemon Go community has just really been welcoming, and you guys are just really nice to everybody. So awesome.
Yeah, happy to have you. Pocket, the only person who can make me look old on a stream.
Well, I stream on Twitch. Might have said that before, but
let me get that shout out going.
Just stream on Twitch every now and then, do the GBLs, run fun teams, because it's just why meta is boring. If I run full meta, I will always get bored and run something for fun. So yeah, if you guys like having watching people brave bird grasses from full HP and watching them die, then you should maybe check out my channel. I also am a troll on Twitter. I post random stuff because I think it's funny. And yeah, so my Twitch is hotpocket77 with no C, and then hotpocket777 is my Twitter with no C as well. I just go by Pocket most of the times. It's what most people call me. And then tip for team building is like knowing your Pokemon, knowing how they work, where they work, and what shield, if they need shields or not. And that will help you, if they're ever a part of another meta, know where, like, what mons you can work with them. And I think having that comfort, like being comfortable with your Pokemon going into a battle, is very helpful, because like sometimes you won't know if something can tank something or not, or you know, if you're let's say you need to keep your shield, but the Marowak is charging a Shadow Bone versus you. Do you live it or not? Do you know that your Frostlass can live it and then get off an avalanche, or do you need to shield it here? So you need to have that knowledge in the battle to help you plan out what's going to happen, or improvise what you're going to do in the middle of the game.
Yeah, for sure. So that wraps up the stream. Thank you all for coming on, joining the panel, because it was really cool to have you all here. Bunch of people who really know what they're doing better than I do. So good to get some other perspectives going.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks,
really
Steve.
Well, no, you. Oh, the videos are different. Wrong way. No, seriously, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it. I definitely personally learned a lot, and I'm gonna probably rewatch this VOD back again to make sure that I've nailed this stuff in. Thanks to everyone who's come and watched as well, because that's, it's awesome to have a bunch of people here learning from these great people. I was definitely worried that there weren't going to be enough people to deserve these people's great presence. So yeah, just real appreciative. Thank you all for being here. And I guess we'll raid on. I think we're actually going to raid King, because King was the man who he started doing panels for the Pokemon Go PvP so long ago. So I may as well circle it around, bring it to him. Yeah. And yeah, just thanks for coming on and sharing the big things. Again, the VOD will be available on YouTube in 24 hours from nowish. So if you do want to catch it there, it'll be there. Everyone's links will be in the description below. So please do go check everyone out, because they deserve it. They're really good. So even Creaser on his fresh Twitter, where I'm sure will be plenty.
I'm going to start doing content now. You've inspired me.
Yeah,
yes!
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Super glad to hear it.
Check out my Shadow Gligar. Yeah.
Yes, we need that Shadow Gligar feature, which didn't quite get out before the end of the month, but we'll get him next time. But yeah, we'll hit the raid button. By the way, if you're here, you can hit the follow button on your way out. Just if you kind of want to come around for future streams, I will be hosting more panels in the future.
Oh yeah,
I hope, because that will be sweet. So hopefully you guys will be around as well, but I'll invite some others. We might get hope. I don't know how often we're going to do panels, but definitely be more. So thanks for joining this one. I guess because this is going to go on YouTube after, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, especially that subscribe one, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. Adios.